Wind power is the conversion of wind energy into electricity. The wind turns the turbine, in this case the rotor blade, and thus turns the generator, which produces electricity. One advantage of this wind power is that the wind is natural and free, which means that a lot of money can be saved, and that with modern technology it can be captured very efficiently. Wind turbines also do not produce any greenhouse gases or other pollutants. Although wind turbines are tall, they only take up a small plot of land. This means that wind farms can contain many wind turbines, and thus more wind turbines can be produced. Wind turbines are available in lots of sizes, which means that the amount of electricity generated can be varied. Some of the disadvantages of wind power are that wind turbines are very noisy. Each one can generate the same level of noise as a family car traveling at 70 miles per hour. When wind turbines are manufactured, however, pollution is produced. Therefore, wind power indirectly does produce some pollution. Large wind farms are needed to produce entire communities, and thus a lot of the land is taken by these wind farms, and thus there is less room to build structures and towns. Also, the wind is not always constant, and thus there may be days in which there would be no wind, and thus electricity is generated at a slower rate.
The kinetic energy of the waves and tides is used to power turbines underneath the water's surface, which is then converted into electricity.
Tidal barrage is a method that harnesses the potential energy of the difference in height when tides, using artificially changed heights between tides with dams.
Tidal power is more reliable and predictable than other sources such as solar and wind. Tidal stream generators can be built into existing structures, and the availability of tidal power has gone up due to advances in technology, which will lower costs.
There is considerable damage to the ecosystem because of the artificial change in the tides using a method like barrage. Harnessing tidal powers is limited to the time of day due to tides. There is a high fish mortality due to these tidal wave methods.
Usually, when light hits an object, the energy turns into heat, but when certain materials are hit, the energy turns into electrical current instead. Solar technology also uses large crystals made out of silicon, which produce an electrical current when struck by light. They can do this because the electrons in the crystal move around when exposed to light instead of just jiggling in place to make the heat.
Some advantages of using solar energy include that there are no chemical byproducts due to the fact that energy is gathered from the sun's radiation, meaning smoke and gas is not part of the process as a chemical byproduct. Another advantage is infinite free energy, meaning that since there is no maintenance or installation required for gaining energy from the sun, there is no cost of using raw materials to gather the energy from the sun. A disadvantage, however, is that solar energy doesn't work at night, evidently because the sun isn't present at night. Another disadvantage is that it can't be stored because the batteries currently are very bulky and unable to contain a lot of the solar energy.
That's basically what there's similar to it doesn't work at night. There's not enough sunlight because
the sun isn't present 24/7, and there just isn't a lot of the solar energy being able to be gathered.
cost is one of the biggest disadvantages because the capital costs for installing a home solar system or building a solar farm are incredibly high. Bulky solar panels are also a disadvantage because people want them to be thinner as time progresses, but then the thinner ones
are not as efficient.
The nuclear power plant stands on the border between humanity's greatest hopes and its deepest fears for the future. On the one hand, nuclear energy can be a great, clean way to produce energy without fossil fuels. But on the other hand, it can have huge environmental consequences.
Power is acquired from the nuclear reactors when bars of uranium are dipped into the water, therefore heating it up, causing it to boil, creating steam, which then turns the turbines, generating electricity.
So today I'm going to talk about hydroelectric power. So how does hydroelectric power convert the movement into energy? So you see here it starts in a reservoir, then it flows down the penstock, as you see, into the turbines. And with the water going into the turbines, it forces them to turn the generator. After they force the turbines to turn the generator, the water then outlets into a river or a stream.
The advantages of hydroelectric power include that it can be generated consistently, that the gates can be closed if no energy is needed, it can be used for decades, and there's no pollution. Also, dams provide large lake surfaces which are very good for leisure activities, such as sailing, motorboat riding, and fishing.
So the disadvantages of these hydroelectric power generators are for example, the very expensive construction costs, such as the generator itself, the turbines, and the dam, also the pipes. Another disadvantage are the flooded areas and the destroyed environment surrounded, and also that some towns or small villages have to be moved away and evacuated because of the floodings. Old dams could break at some point and would also, again, be great costs for the state to remove these destructions. And it also hurts the wildlife, such as the fishes that might go down the current of the pipes. But compared to our other power sources, it's not like any other type of them would destroy our wildlife or would be expensive. Any type of electricity generators destroy some kind.
Geothermal energy uses the Earth's heat to create energy.
How it works. Heat from a geothermal reservoir is pushed up to heat water. This creates steam, which is used to push a turbine, creating energy in a generator. The excess steam and wastewater is injected back into the earth, while the excess hot water is used to heat homes.
Advantages of geothermal energy. It is sustainable as long as the Earth is around and is readily available with technology. The disadvantages of geothermal energy. This is a breakdown of geothermal electricity production. Shown by the chart, the US creates 28.7% of the world's geothermal electricity. Yet, only 0.4% of the total US production of electricity is geothermal. This shows how insufficient geothermal energy is.
Biomass is produced from timber, agriculture, and food processing waste, or from fuel crops that are specifically grown or reserved for electricity generation.
Biomass fuel also includes sewage sludge and animal manure and is sometimes derived from trees.
Biomass is considered renewable. It turns waste products continually generated by society, such as burning crop residues, sewage, or manure, into electricity. It also offers environmental benefits by preserving landfill space and preventing less environmental harm.
Another advantage is that it uses combustion processes to produce electricity rather than relying on wind, solar, or hydraulic energy, so they can generate electricity at any time.
However, some biomass power plants show a relatively high mono-nitrogen oxide emission rate generated when compared to other combustion technologies. This is a very high air quality concern.
In addition, biomass plants also release carbon dioxide, the primary greenhouse gas. However, the cycle of growing, processing, and burning biomass recycles carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Therefore, it is somewhat of a neutral effect.